good news is something is happening in Manipur. Schools are going to reopen. The bunkers which have been made by the militants, both from the Kuki side and both from the Maiti side, will be they will be dismantled. And most important of all, Chief Minister has at least started to speak every day to the constituents, because in the early part of the Manipur mayhem, Chief Minister Biren Singh was silent. But at least every 48 hours now he's seen on TV. He's seen going to remote places. He's seen speaking to the officers, and he's seen speaking to the press and people outside Manipur. So there is an improvement. The schools will open from July 5th for classes from 1st to 8th. However, the CM has said that the classes for 9th, 12th will resume once prefabricated houses are ready for displaced families. Currently, and that's the unfortunate part, schools are functioning as relief camps. They are the shelters. And in absence of digital connectivity, you even cannot have schools on Zoom classes. Now, Chief Minister has announced that additional units of central forces would be deployed to watch over farmers getting back to work in 5 districts of Imphal, which is East, West, Kakching, Kangpokhi, and Churachandpur. And let me tell you why this is important. It's monsoon season. If they don't sow, they will not produce. If they don't produce, next year it's going to be famine in Manipur. People will have nothing to eat. So it's important that people work in their fields. Because if they don't, then they will have a double problem. One, administration will have to deal with a lot of people sitting idle. Second, economy will come to a standstill. Now, 2,000 police personnel will be assigned to areas deemed vulnerable to attacks by armed groups. And let me tell you the reason why we are mentioning this is because Manipur is a valley. So you have the Loktak Lake, which is part of the valley, and then you have the hills. So where hills and valley meet, maximum violence is taking place around that. You know, in a way, Brijesh, we can call it a ring of fire, because people fire from the hilltops and then the retaliation takes place. Though even this narrative is contested, but the fact of the matter is it has become a dominant narrative. Now, security posts will be set up on the hilltops. There will be round-the-clock drone surveillance and monitoring by officials at the Central Security Headquarters. But the good part is a national highway has been opened. Bad part is 4 farmhouses and a car were set ablaze by suspected Kuki militants after a gun battle with the village volunteers of Lekanthabi, Santipur on Monday. You know, these are the developments. But as per sources, this attack took place from the hill range of Tombi Rock under the jurisdiction of Sekmai police station around 3:30 a.m. So we are not talking about daybreaks, Brijesh. We are talking about nighttime raids. The gun battle, we are not saying skirmish, we are talking about gun battle. It continued till 10:30 a.m. Hearing the news of the gun battle, a large number of women folk halted the Central Forces vehicles from entering the area at Koirangi, Awang Potsgam, Awang Lekthabi, Sekmai Bazar, and Fedinga. I'm sorry if I have pronounced these names in a way they shouldn't have been. They are in Manipur. But one thing again has happened, which both me and Brijesh have been talking about, which will be part of coverage, which is women volunteers blocking security forces. So before I introduce my guest, one thing I would like to say, our conversation for today is divided into 4 parts basically. One is destruction of bunkers, very good. One is women volunteers blocking security forces, unacceptable. Huge refugee problem in Mizoram, a big problem. And school reopening tomorrow, very good. Your opening comments before I toss to the bites of Biren Singh.
Well, I think, it's definitely good news that, schools are going to be open. But I think the bigger question still looms large over this. Is the government in a position to ensure that nothing untoward happened? Whether any fresh incidents of violence, the government is able to control any fresh incident of violence or not. I think the government, it will be a while before we reach a situation where the violence is curbed, and it's not going to be curbed until both sides agree for a composite political dialogue initiated by the government. The good thing, as you spoke about, Karthike, is the fact that now Biren Singh has come out and is speaking on a daily basis, almost on a daily basis, and is making all kind of right noises. But the bigger question is that will these right kind of noises pave the way for peace and prosperity in the state of Manipur? I think we'll have to wait and watch and say, look for the next 48 hours before we can start assessing what Biren Singh is saying and doing and its impact on the ground.
Let's play out Biren Singh's bite.
Thogdoni yaragadi koi violence topinaba haidne koi hanana appeal tobjibani adu kharama khaidi Manipur praja mayamgi cooperation dagi support dagi koi ji kharama khaidi phare masa masu sing awa phunda tadana ba soyangam yaudraba Haidana, Yum the Nungaina Legadaba, in my view, since suggesting a mission of the Topana, Kansa Selaga, Assassin Bo, Manau Simbo, Mayamba Simbo, Mabung Simbo, showing on the Reba, Honaba, Duga, Laibat, Manipur, Bumacheta, the Naba, upon the Manipur is a Tam Kanana Loriba, Imasingi. Thogdang koi thadon jomna koi thagatchoi adu boloniana civil society mayam na lobby riba and harse koi tampa kakte gina teko singi effect riba jaga da su kaunari ba porpun ba santi porumna bida lambi da kona riba mayam punna ai magi degi amadi sarkar gi magi degi community animaki civil society sing leadership mayam boy thagachari rolonena tampaki lamda bhatana de ba khara laina badagi lambi da karida gari se thok chasin da thingamba kholamba imphal manung da karida tormoksi loina pariota isanar ba matung da loina ingdar no si a home lo yam sauna pubira and logi masigi the I my bills civil society sing at the Manipur police a chowat dan logiba aduga central paramilitary forces army Assam rifles puna koi thagachari the machinery when nothing but praja singh ki thajaba the Sarkar, the Pibirapa, paramilitary forces in the army, in the Manipur police, the Pibirapa to be Matung Tarapoina, Equina, Praja Singhi, Adu Pamba, Aduga, Manipur Praja Miam, quite again a Pamba, Tabuk Sinkara, Tangai for the Bushku color, Quikara, Lokochana Hona Japani, everything Haki among the Joint Combined Unified Command ki a meeting to it. The Army, Assam Rifles, paramilitary forces, state police force, advisor, chief secretary, Mayam Singh Yaurga. Maduda Quene and the concrete weba Posakhara. Implement on none about way, whatever we have done. Manipur state money. District Kaido Koduna administrative convenient ki when it is Kaido Pani Manipur Matani Manipur Gimatung Manunda Agilam Magilam Haidana State Chiwina Apun Magiwina Koi Leminary Masideta Koi live Toy Birang in a Markanda Zagazaga jurisdiction Tona Rapodona buffer zone Gana Taubugi when a woman Tambi, although my Mangarapa Yakosi in the Pakistangi Elosi type that Hamad of Gimuma Mandumba. Although we put Kara Pansepara Atopa Ewang lan sakhi ke bu uba du gumba bunker nakan chana ra gumba kai do gumba se adu masi ngasi se ko lewang mayam gi interest da Manipur amatani Bharat amatani akhoi manung state da khaidok na ba ya ba na te ko pun nei miner pani Manipur so ke try kun tra ba manga mi te yong na hingminari bani hingminaki doini aduna hayeng mathang dagi after tomorrow dagi Manipur gi irang thoi mafam sida laiba bunker khuding both hill in the valley bunker na ina rakanda bunker da laina rakanda ikoi gi war gi na taga khanna bagi kapna bagi readiness laiba dong na tawri pot puna maksi lok thok na ba masi koi na army na lead tawgani paramilitary forces Manipuri commandos policing yaugani IRBMR lo yaugani aduga paramilitary forces yaugani aduga masi hafta mukki manungda aikoina security provide to bangama jaga singda private individuals group amatagi bunker lehanda ba habsi mai koi masi walep similar kana pe implement tawgani haiduna masi gi si Indian army na Sanrakana lead tawgani army na lead tawgani aduga bagi combined team no ni hogani machine aikoi da aigi magi ena tawna badongna lamgi da leiriba sigi poche manghan bangangani aduga koi apunba hanagi leirpa Manipur gi wakhalon du da leirkanda security leiba darkar leiba jaga da security piriba tawna na ba haidana maina hona jare ani shubada ji nong sing lakpaga mari laina khwaidagi maru oi riba khigi lau simu bagi poche masi thabak hauna bagi damukta aikoi honorable MLA Singh, Minister Singh, BVIP Singh, VIP lady pa mayam police officer adagi government officer Singh dagi leiramba piramba security personnel Singh aduga atopa mafam Singh da attest tawramba Singh ayamba lokthokpa yaba lokthoga akhoi personnel lising ani gumba akhoi mobilize tawre.
So finally he's saying that we will ensure that the normalcy returns. I'll be joined by Major General Sanjay Soy, Mr. Kipgun, spokesperson, Kuki INPI Manipur, a very warm welcome. Ranjana Thayyam, Executive Member World Methi Council. We could not connect with her yesterday because of some lot of connectivity issue. And Mr. Brinda, retired officer, Manipur, Thonjabam, Brinda. So, Brijesh, today before we open the discussion with our esteemed guests who have joined with us, do you think it's correct to open schools right now when most of them are functioning as relief centers?
Well, I think, the decision to open school may send a message that, situation is returning to normalcy, but I completely beg to differ from there. I think the situation is far from normal, and the opening of schools might result into a situation which would not work well for the state government. I think the government must ensure that first law and order is restored, all these sporadic violent incidents are controlled, and only then they should go ahead to open school and universities, because you may have as many measures which may through which you may want to reflect that situation is turning to normalcy. The reality is far from that.
Okay, now straight away let me go to Mr. Kipgun. Mr. Kipgun, is it the correct decision to open the schools?
Schools right now, as Mr. Brijesh also pointed out, has a bigger meaning than just a school. Schools presently they are serving as a shelter for those seeking relief. And schools, when you say schools will be opened, I fail to comprehend what the Chief Minister of Manipur meant by that, because most of the teachers are not yet able to go back to the respective schools. Now, these schools which will be open, for example, in the hills, many of them say at least about 40 to 50% of the teacher strength is from the valley community. Now, without their presence, how are these schools going to be run? Now, if the schools in the hills are supposed to, take in all the children who have left their homes, who have left their previous schools, and admit them to the little available schools, it means that there will be double the number of students and half the number of teachers. So many things the government is overlooking when they say that schools shall be reopened. And on paper or on media, it sounds very appealing. It sounds very nice that schools will be reopened. We all wish that schools would be reopened, but in the proper way that it should be. And for that, the government has to ensure that the teachers are able to be in their respective places of posting. And on the other hand, the shelters, regarding the shelters also, what is the alternative that these relief seekers who are presently located in the schools, what is going to be their option? Where do they stay? So the government has failed to look into all these many other aspects, and opening of schools will lead to subsequent and culminative many other consequences. I would like to put that for now.
Okay. Ranjana ji, how good is this decision, schools to be open? Brindaji, can you take that question?
She is not audible to me.
Brindaji, this question is for you. Can you take that question?
All right. That question is for me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Regarding the opening of the school, we have to assess the reality right now. What is the status of law and order in Manipur, and what is the opinion of the public? The government of Manipur, it thinks, is out of touch with reality, or either he is trying to put up a show, or he is trying to cover up the reality. None of the displaced these people have returned to their original villages, be it for the cookies or the Meitei. And the situation in Manipur is there is still curfew. Law and order still is not under control. People are chopping up each other. People are murdering each other. And in this situation where normal people cannot even go off for their normal life, how can he afford to send innocent children to school? To show what? To whom? For what? This is the question.
Brindaji, why is law and order is not under control? What has gone wrong under policing? Because if you look at the Punjab experience, or if you look the ongoing Kashmir experience, the effort of the center or the unified command is after a particular point of time, police is at the forefront. Punjab insurgency was tackled by the police officers of this country. Army had a role, but the sterling role was done by the police officers. Even in the Kashmir, the whole thrust is that army should go back and the police should take over. That is not happening because there's an international angle. But anywhere if there is a position where army should be sent back, army goes back and police takes over. But here there seems to be opposite. There seems to be I'm sorry to say that it seems as if the police has melted away, madam.
See, in the Manipur situation, we have to start from the genesis, from how the issue started, and what role the state police have taken in controlling the situation. The state police is under the Home Minister, who is the Chief Minister himself. So ever since the start of this whole crisis, we have not seen Manipur police performing, what it should be performing in such a crisis. And my curiosity is why the Home Minister is not using its force under him effectively to control the law and order situation in the whole of the state, not only in Imphal. So inevitably, the question goes to the Chief Minister why he is not using the state force to effectively control the situation in the whole of the state, rather taking a back seat and doing putting up these shows from time to time when lives are being lost, when houses are being burned, when people from all communities are suffering, unprecedented like no other time in the history of Manipur. So this question should be put to the Home Minister of Manipur, who is in charge of the Home Department.
Ranjana ji, your opening comments about the school being opened by the Chief Minister from the 5th of July?
Yeah, that is the point. See, the idea of opening a school, but I think it is too early. But that is the first step towards, moving towards bringing peace in the state. But then, considering the current situation that's been happening in Manipur, I don't think people are really ready to, that tomorrow the school is going to open. Okay, let's send our children to school, and like, that mindset is still not there. So I think it is a first step, but the government, it is not the right time. Okay, thinking about opening a school sooner, it is good, but then currently in the current situation that's been happening, when people are getting killed and so many violence happening every now and then this is not the right time to reopen the school.
Okay, this is not the right time to reopen the school. And let me in end go to Major General Sanjay Soy. Sir, am I audible to you?
Yes, I can.
So, of your opening comments on school opening decision, and then I open the debate to other issues, sir.
Yeah, in fact, Kartikeya, I feel very sad because Manipur has been close to my heart. I am from Naga regiment, and in January, after retirement, I went and visited Manipur. End of January and first week of February, I went to Palel, I went to Senapati, I went to Churachandpur, and of course Imphal. Yes, wanted to visit number of places, Subhash Chandra Bose Memorial, and the kind of development I saw, the kind of bonhomie I saw. I was roaming around all by myself. There's no problem, me and my wife, and we really enjoyed, met a lot of friends. I have friends, both tribals as well as Meitei, and I feel really disturbed the way things are happening there, and it really hurts me, and in fact, whole of India, it affects whole of India, the kinds of things which are happening. It is very, very unfortunate. Coming to your point of school, Kartikeya, in fact, it has two things. One is, one has to send a message of normalcy. Yes, unless that kind of messaging goes, unless something starts happening towards positive side, we got to give some positive news. You had mentioned of 2 positive news and 2 negative news. So we need to start with something positive, otherwise we'll keep that feeling of distrust, feeling of this restlessness, and violence will continue. Somewhere this thing has to start, and knowing Manipur, I know that the way they respect women, the way they respect children, I'm 200% sure no harm will be done to the children. That is the culture of Manipur, both whether it's tribal or Meitei. Nothing happens to them. They can go anytime. But yes, there is a big challenge of shifting refugees. That's why probably government is starting with the primary schools, smaller schools, and I think they will do it in a gradual manner, not in though they have announced a date. It's a good message as far as I am concerned, to send a message of normalcy, though challenges would remain, and unfortunately the kind of violence which is still going on there between tribals and Meitei, that is very, very unfortunate. And now, unless another good thing is that combined, and a lot of places are being given to central forces, like 5 districts are being given to central forces. So that will bring some sort of trust. Probably at present the people trust only central forces. Most of the people have lost trust in the local police, which is very sad, because ultimately what you had brought out and what Vrindaji had said, that ultimate law and order situation has to be tackled by the local police. They know the in and out, they know the every street, they know every character, they know everybody. Central forces can bring a situation up to a level, but after that it has to be the bureaucrats, the politicians and the police which have to handle the situation, and they got to be upright and correct. And another good thing which you had brought out was the communication factor, the way Chief Minister is talking to the people. That's very, very important. Unless those kinds of communication with all factors, all stakeholders is there, it is very difficult to bring the situation to the normalcy. Kartikeya.
Sir, there is one more thing, which is even more disturbing, is that, in Manipur, what we have witnessed is that, women come out and they block the movement of security forces. I'm talking about the militant attack which took place at the hill range of Tombi Rock, under the jurisdiction of the Sekmai police station. Now again, when this gun battle started, a lot of women forces came out, and central forces vehicles which were trying to enter the area at Koirangai, Awang, Potsangambam, Awang, Lekanthabi, please pardon my pronunciation, I'm trying my best, Sekmai Bazar and Faidinga, they were stopped.
I know.
Why were they stopped? This is unique.
Yeah. As a security force, as a veteran of army, I feel it is a very big challenge for us. Very, very big challenge for us. Because when the women are there, they are like common people. You can't fire on them. You can't do lathi charge, and they are not doing any violent activity. They're just blocking. They're just standing. So it's a very, very big challenge for a commander on ground how to handle this situation. That's why probably it's very important that local women police accompanies them. They are part of this thing to handle this kind of situation and create a way, create a safe passage for the armed forces and the security forces. Because if they do this, next day there would be a hue and cry of human rights, or there would be a lot of videos on your channel and other channels on the media that this is what has happened, unarmed women have been killed. The woman is very, very typical, and this thing is not now. Historically, you've seen the past also, women have been playing a major role in Manipur. In fact, they are one of the, whether in the sports field or the politics or in the jobs, they are one of the major factor of growth in Manipur, and historically also, whenever big agitations are there, their women have always come out and took stand. So it's a big challenge for the security forces, Kartika. I agree with you.
It's a big challenge. Madam Brinda, why is this happening? Why are women coming out? And a lot of experts would say that we'll take control of it. But every time there is a gun battle which is taking place, the roads are being blocked, police is not allowed, army is not allowed, and this phenomena continues. It has not been stopped. Madam. Brinda, madam, the question is for you. Brinda ji?
Yeah, can you please repeat the question again? Line got off. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you please repeat the question
I'm
again?
saying that what is this phenomena with women stopping security forces?
See, historically, women of Manipur have always been in the forefront of taking decisions when it comes to the interests of the state and her people. We have always been pre-independent also, post-independent also, that we have always been in the forefront, and it is them who have been guarding the interests of the people and her children. So now, why they are coming out in the front? State administration has totally collapsed. Law and order is totally not present. People are being killed from the Meitei community, and the people are being killed from the Kupki community. And in this situation, people are being exposed to an unprecedented threat, unlike at no other time in the history of Manipur. So naturally, women who have been in the forefront will naturally come out, where they are blocking the security forces and the state police from entering, because they do not trust them, because there is ceasefire agreement between the militant groups on suspension operations and the government of India and the government of Manipur. Because of that, these security forces being deployed in the hills, they are not confronting these militants who are firing at the common people. So these women folks are coming out to protect their volunteers and the villagers who are defending themselves. It is the people who have been left to defend on their own, against these militants who are firing at them. It is the state which is not taking responsibility of what is taking place. That is why women are coming out on the forefront to take, defense, to put the state accountable and to guard their own people.
Mr. Kipkin, how do you look at this? Women stopping security forces. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, in the earlier discussion we had, there also had mentioned how the Mera Paibi especially have always played a very powerful role, very significant role, not only within the Meitei society, but in Manipur as a whole. How at one point of time, they were the torchbearers of peace, but lately, maybe because of the indoctrination that they have had so strongly, they still believe, I'm sure they still believe they are doing the right thing. But now we are finding that it is very unfortunate, but we are finding that they are now obstructing movement of the armed forces, obstructing movement of the police, and but what we can see from the way they are functioning right now is that it is not by their own decision that they are out in the streets, because the information or the decisions which they have taken that have been fed to them. Why I am not just trying to accuse, but if you see the repercussions, if you see the consequences of their actions, it leads to the getting away of militants. It leads to the escaping of militants. Now, the narrative that they give is that they are there to protect their fellow revolutionary forces who are there to protect them, and I do not blame them. Obviously, this is the stand that they will be taking, but it shows that the Métis women community, as much as they do not trust the state forces, they also do not trust the center forces. Now, as Sister Brinda had rightly said, instead of pointing out who the perpetrators and who the victims are on each side of the hill and the valley, it is a common blame. It is a common truth that the state security forces, the state home department has failed, and yet till today he is happy to show his confidence. He is happy to show his strength in order to retain the seat. But to what cost? If this goes on, the number of lives that have been lost, the number of houses that have been burned on both sides will only increase. It will increase. So women, even the role of women in the present context, it is very condemnable from our side. But I understand that the context that they are in, because once the indoctrination is so deep rooted, people start to believe whatever is told to them, that they truly believe they are being patriots for their communities. But however, if this continues to go on, then even the armed forces should start to think that how long should these, mob of women, be it from whichever community, how long should they be very leniently dealt with? When should the use of force be applied? Because the consequences are really devastating because of their obstruction to the movement of these armed personnel.
Ranjana ji, I think that's a very important comment by Mr. Kipgan. He understands why this is happening, and he's also saying that it has a direct impact on the morale of both army and the security forces. And even last time, I'm using the word, terrorists were let loose. People involved in killing of officers of Dogra Regiment.
Yes.
Dogra Regiment. They had to be released. Ranjana ji.
Yeah, I understand the point, but I have 1 point or 2 points to make. So there are, as Brinda has mentioned, that we have the people or the public have lost the trust in the government or even the forces, state forces or the central forces. So if one of the incident that happened, it is also there in the news. Anybody can look it up. The first incident that happened where the RAF, those RAF central forces, right? So they tried to burn down a shop in the Imphal city, right? It was captured in the CCTV camera.
Are you saying the Rapid Action Force burned down a shop? We very loosely blame Assam Rifle, sometimes police, sometimes Indian Army. We can speak, but to say this without evidence is really problematic.
Yeah, the evidence is there. It was captured in the CCTV camera.
I think they broke a car, and they broke a car. They didn't burn down a shop. You see, I saw that visual. They broke a car. They didn't burn a shop. They broke a car. Lathi chalai, gaadi ka shisha tod diya. And I think both of them got suspended.
Yeah, let me come to it. That was the second incident that happened. So before that, there was another incident that happened on the second week of May, I think. You can look it up. It is there in the news. So they tried to burn a shop, but it was captured in the CCTV camera, and those 2 persons has been suspended, and it was there in the news. So if you see, and then after that there was another incident which is also there in the CCTV camera where they were breaking the public vehicles and all. So in so many things are happening there in Manipur, and it's gone out of control. And out of that, when the like central forces came to Manipur, right? When the central government sent them to control the law and order situation in Manipur, we had that hope. Okay, these people are there. Central government has sent the forces and all. Maybe in a day or two or in a week, the situation in Manipur will be under control and we will have a normal life again. But again, after those incidents, I think the violence increases, and because of that reason also, I think the public has lost the trust, okay, in both the central forces and the state forces, and then people has taken up, they have taken it as their own responsibility to help out their fellow civil, I mean, people
But
who are there,
Ranjana ji,
like.
if you are saying that the responsibility to is help out your own people, but can it be can it be at the cost of the administration? You are blocking the security movement. You are blocking operation of law, Ranjana ji.
Yeah, correct. I agree to that. That is not the right way to deal with it. But in this situation, we should come out and talk and discuss what we can do about the current situation that's been happening in Manipur. I'm not telling that this is the right way, but people has been carried away with all the violence and so many things happening, and then it's like everybody are lost. Whoever is there in Manipur, they don't know, even they are not able to, they don't have the right mindset to decide if this is right or wrong. It is like it's gone out of control. So I mean, the central government and the state government should really come up and do something about it.
But how do you rein in?
Honestly speaking, if I may ask you, how do you expect the central and the state government to do it, ma'am? When women folk are not allowing central paramilitary forces to do their job, how do you come to a situation where peace can be restored? And this is not limited to only you, but to people at large. How do you expect central forces to work?
I think there is a way to. I mean, we have enough time to. The women leaders are there. We can sit with them. The central government or the state government, they can sit with them and talk it out without discussion. If they just let them do whatever they are doing for any matter of any reason, maybe. So you can't just let them do anybody whatever they want to do, and
But
later
Ranjana
blame
ji,
that they are
we are not trying to grill you here, but the women intervention, and let it be very, I'm being blunt here. 12 मिलिटेंट्स गए थे जिनमें से एक व्यक्ति ने डोगरा रेजिमेंट के जवानों को मारा था. They were forced to release.
And usually, you don't see that kind of video being released by Indian Army. I mean, Indian Army
I mean to say, those who killed the men in olives were released. That is indefensible. Ranjana ji.
Yeah, I understand that we all agree. Like that is not the right way. But the thing is that if we don't talk or if we don't, discuss about it, that if we don't let them know that whatever they are doing is not the right way, how will we or the central government or even the state government is trying to, make them understand that the way they are doing is not right? How is that going to happen if we don't talk? So it is very important that the state government held a meeting with all the leaders of the Mera Paibis or the women volunteers and sit and talk, and they can send out a message to the rest of the people. So
but Ranjana ji, don't you think that it is all politically motivated? Chief Minister का मेरा पाइबीज नहीं रोक दिया कि मुझे इस्तीफा देने नहीं दिया, and he doesn't go out, and there's a resignation letter which comes out. Ultimately, everyone gets politically motivated. Madam Brinda, I want to know from you that ultimately it's the police force which will have to provide. Army cannot stay there forever. Assam Rifle cannot stay there forever. The job of the Assam Rifle is to protect the border. Unless and until the police organizes itself, this will continue to happen. In your opinion, what are the reasons, madam, why police has not been at the forefront of this?
See, we are beating in the bush by discussing whether the central forces or the state force can control the situation in Manipur. It has to come from the top. We have to replace the leadership. For the last 50 days, he has failed to control the situation and put things in order.
Are you saying Biren Singh?
For the last 50 days, yes.
Okay, you're saying Biren Singh has failed.
He should take. He has failed. We are seeing it. There is no refute to that. Nobody can challenge that. For the last 60 days, he and his government hasn't spoken a word that is satisfactory to the general public. For the last 60 days, he and his government haven't done a thing, taken up a step to show to the public of Manipur that they are doing something to control the situation. Nothing. So this last 60 days, all the casualties from all the communities are innocent victims, and the people are suffering on account of its nexus with the drug cartel and its involvement in the whole affair of this narco-terrorism. He should step down, his government should go, and let there be president rule in the state. And if the government of Delhi, if it is will enough, they should conduct fresh election, and then we shall see.
Madam, you are saying there should be president rule in the state. You are talking us live from Manipur. Let me tell you, we are trying our best to get voices from Manipur. Yesterday, we had Professor Oinam Bhagat from Manipur, who is a professor in JNU. Today, we have Madam Brinda from Manipur. We will continue to get these voices from Manipur for one simple reason, because our program is committed, and this is 63rd day, which is live coverage of Manipur, 2 hours every day on News9 Live. Madam, may I ask you, what is your ground assessment? You are there in Imphal, we are sitting in Delhi. Can you take us through what is happening in Manipur? It's an open question to you, madam.
The ground situation in Manipur is that it has aggravated since the day it started, and the government is unstable. It cannot stand on its own feet when the law and order has collapsed in the state. There has to be an emergency or has to be involved. So my question to the government of Delhi is why it has cut the step down, lock all its doors and the windows, and allow people to murder each other, chop up each other, brutally murder each other, burn each other, not saying a word, uttering a word, not lifting a finger, doing nothing. What is New Delhi doing with regard to the problem in Manipur? If they cannot control the situation, bring in the president's role instead of allowing the home minister to do whatever he wants with the state.
But
if they consider Manipur to be part of India, then they should put down their CM, install president's rule, conduct fresh election, and then we shall see.
But Brinda ji, what explains so much of animosity? ऐसा तो नहीं था कि these people were fighting with each other. Why did such animosity erupt in such hatred that in my previous session, one of the speakers ended up using the word quote-unquote civil war, because that is not my word.
See, why there is so much hatred between the two communities? It has been promoted. It has been promoted for the reason that on the 3rd of May, when the things erupted, the government of Manipur, could have controlled everything abruptly and right away, which it did not. So, as we all know, this thing started from narco-terrorism, from drugs, people being armed from drugs money and trying to balkanize the state, terrorizing the people. We all know the genesis. So, naturally, the government, because of its involvement in drugs, allows people to kill each other, deflect the issue from its responsibility, and turn it into an ethnic class, which is the ugliest ever that has taken place in Manipur.
Brijesh, do you agree?
Well, I think, there has to be a degree of accountability, Karthikeyan. The fact is that, if you want to take side or not take side, if you assess the situation impartially and, with nothing but an attempt to seek out the truth, the reality is that, yes, it's almost 2 months. It's almost 2 months, but it's 2 months. And the situation has not been able to, the state has not been able to get the situation back to normalcy. The central forces are there, Article 355 has been imposed, but the central forces have also not been able to do much because given the kind of constraints they have to work under. I mean, honestly speaking, I don't remember when was the last time I saw back-to-back video released by Indian Army, telling the world about the kind of difficulty they are facing as far as, negotiating around, because those women are Indians, they are as Indians as you and I are. And the situation is that, with men folks around, you can still want to or may attempt to use force to disperse the crowd. With women folk, you can't do that. So every situation is, everybody is working with their, one hand tied on the back. And it does raise a very important question, that why has there been not that kind of effective crackdown as far as, people who are taking law and orders in their own hand. And most importantly, when you have an individual about which you you have this diverse opinion, where people from both ethnicity, one ethnicity is completely, which is Kuki, and several Meiteis also, having no hope or having no trust in them, then I think, it begs a bigger question as to, how long will you allow that person to be in charge? And more importantly, will the center crack down as was promised by the Home Minister? Because if you allow this situation to fester, if you allow this situation to go on and sporadic violence are not coming to an end, then it raises a big question mark about the feasibility of various other operations which are being, or the steps which are being taken by the central government.
Okay, now let me play out a bite of Biren Singh, followed by bite of Ram Madhav, who is giving advice to Biren Singh. First Biren Singh's bite, then I interviewed Ram Madhav, and Ram Madhav's bite advising Biren Singh.
We have decided to implement in the ground something that, the bunker, wherever it's constructed inside the Manipur, has to be destroyed, and the particular area, vulnerable area, has to be deployed, the state force and paramilitary forces, number one. Number two, for the agricultural purpose, the government has decided to give more personnel in particular 5 districts. 5 districts means it includes for Kangpokpi adjoining area, Soshanpur adjoining area. For Soshanpur also, we will provide security. Those who want to do the farmings, for Kangpokpi area also. Similarly, we are also providing to Imphal East and Imphal West, including Kapchin. Around 2,000 police personnel, state personnel will be given in addition to the previous deployed personnel. And the number third, seeing the need and the importance, the state government has decided to open the school from Wednesday, the 5th July, from class 1 to 8.
Any one piece of advice to your former colleague, Mr. Biren Singh, who became Chief Minister when you were in charge of Northeast?
No, I am not in any such political authority to give any advice to him. But my only concern is that everybody should work towards, first of all, creating an incident-free Manipur.
Okay, now let me read this out. There is also a refugee problem in Mizoram. So, and there is also another aspect which is Ram Madhav is saying incident-free. Let me go back to General Saab, Major General Sir. When we say incident-free Manipur, that incident-free Manipur is not happening. Every day you have an incident. So, you cannot say that there has been no incident. So, unless and until you have no incident, or until you continue to have such incidents, sense of normalcy never returns. What is required for that sense of ordinariness to return to an average Manipuri's life?
Absolutely, Karthikeya. In fact, I would say that it is the ordinary Manipuri which is suffering, whether it is a Kuki or Meitei or Naga. Everybody is suffering. Everybody is a loser in this whole thing. Nobody is coming out winner, even if something happens. So, only thing by government is to do is to ensure governance. Government's job is governance, and that is missing probably at present. Why? How can they allow looting of so many weapons? Then they ask for drop boxes. There is total, at present situation has to be dealt with iron hand. I'm telling you as a Fauji, I say that for the betterment of people, for everybody, it has to be dealt with iron hand with no partiality, whether it's a Kuki or Meitei, anybody has to be dealt with similar situation. I mean, you can't have partiality. And this is what is very important, because that is where the lack of trust is building up. Trust is very, very important at present, which is missing between both the communities, and both the communities having trust in the government and government having trust in the communities. So that is one thing at present. And how to build trust? The trust can only come up if you deal with the pinpoint targets. I mean, anybody who is militant is a militant, whether it is of any tribe or any community. It has to be dealt in a right manner. If somebody is having a weapon,
General, so there is one question which I want to ask you. In our 2.5 months of regular coverage, we all understand that Indian Army is a different institution. Then you have Indian Army who runs certain institutions, like for example the anti-hostage taking wing of the National Security Guard, away from the security protection detail of the NSG. That is run by Indian Army officers. The IG is an Indian Army officer. Other wing, it's the IPS officer. Similarly, Assam Rifle is being handled by Indian Army officers. It's in charge of Myanmar border. So why has it become a contention? Indian Army पे कभी कोई controversy नहीं होती कि फौज बुलाओ. But when it comes to BSF, ITBP, Assam Rifle, you have this narrative. नहीं, ये तो bias है. You told me that you have served there. What is this narrative about? Can you break it down for our viewers? ये होता क्यों है? ये हो क्यों रहा है वहाँ? Assam Rifle पे इस तरह का narrative क्यों है?
In fact, it should not be, because Assam Rifle is also governed by and led by the army officer. That is one part. It has people from all over. They have a Meitei, they have a tribal, they have people from Uttarakhand, they have people from Rajasthan, UP. Assam Rifle is not only one particular community. So it is probably the narrative being built so that probably to reduce the credibility, to impede the credibility of the Assam Rifle. Otherwise, I have no doubt that Assam Rifle.
General Soy, मैं इसलिए आपसे पूछा, a lot of panelists previously, because we had to say please don't use this word, but today I saw you, so I'm asking you this. नहीं, आप Assam Rifle हटा दीजिए, Indian Army को लेके आइए. Now, in this country of 1.2 billion people, the nuance would be lost. The nuance would be lost, and I'm not making fun of anyone. मुझे भी बहुत सारी चीजें पता नहीं रहती हैं. That nuance would be lost. So ये क्यों होता है कि आप असम राइफल हटा दीजिए, भारत की फौज को लाइए? Why ये narrative क्यों है? ये मतलब why has this happened?
Assam Rifle is also of India only, and even I would say that there was a lack of trust amongst Kuki for the local police. That I say that probably tribals were not trusting the local police, but as far as Assam Rifle is concerned, as far as the army is concerned, as far as central forces are concerned, probably they are all neutral. They have nothing to do with any why, because
but then Meiteis have an issue. A lot of Meitei intellectuals have an issue on that, on Assam Rifle. I'm asking you point blank. I know you have served in Nagaland. इसलिए मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ, बता सकते हैं उस चीज को? You can educate us.
ये तो perception building वाली बात.
Correct.
There is nothing to do. Absolutely, they are trying to create their own image building. They don't want probably central forces to come into play. They want only the local police to remain into play. That is where probably lack of trust from the other people, from the tribals is there. I feel that the central forces, I have served with BSF on the border, I have served with CRPF in the Chhattisgarh Naxalite area. I mean, they're all totally neutral. I have nothing to do.
So how should that narrative be countered?
I'm from North India. I don't know whether it's a Meitei or Kuki. Both are same for me. It is, for me, national interest come first. And this narrative has to be countered by action, not by talks and words. They have to be done. In fact, if the women are stopping, we need to find a solution to that. Whether it's the women CRPF unit or the local women police, they have to tackle them. You can't allow militants to get away like that, taking shelter of the women. I mean, ये तो डरपोक वाली बात होगी, पीछे ladies के पीछे छुप के आप भाग जाओ. That is not the way Manipur fights. I have a lot of regard, respect, love for Manipuris, both Meitei and tribals. I mean, they're wonderful people. This is very, very unfortunate thing which is happening. It is all because of politicization of the whole thing. And then subsequently a narrative was built up on the religious ground, Hindu versus Christianity. These are, whereas Vannaji has rightly brought out, behind the whole thing was the drug money which brought in the weapons, then the looting of weapons. And today, the weaponization of any society can cause lot of problems, lot of issues. We need to tackle that. We have to handle that.
General, so isn't that the elephant in the room? Isn't that the elephant in the room? Assam Rifle foil smuggling of contraband items worth 67.4 lakhs in Manipur. The Shangshak Battalion, Assam Rifle on 2nd June 2023 foiled smuggling of contraband worth this much in Ukhrul district. So narcotics is the elephant in the room?
Absolutely. I think before me, Vrindaji had brought out very correctly that it is the drug money and the power of which drug brings, the money and the weapons by which they can be bought by the drug money, and ultimately the power game, the territory game, which is taking place, that a lot of things happening, and we got to be very careful because ultimately China is looking at the situation there. As a defense person, I would say that, and through Myanmar, there could be more infiltration and more weapons could be sent in. So we got to tackle this on top priority. Central forces have to be deployed, and in more districts, not only in 5 districts. And we have to deal with this situation with iron hand. I mean, local people need to be respected. They need to be given rest. They need to be given proper shelter, food, education, and militants have to be taken care. That de-weaponization of the society has to take place. You can't have everybody carrying weapons. Then, on slightest pretext, there would be violence. It cannot happen. That will show the weakness of governance. Governance can happen only by one. Not everybody cannot govern the state. Somewhere some group governs, some, in fact, a lot of people are taking taxes also there. That cannot happen. All these things happen because of the power game which is being played and politicization, political parties trying to gain support of such factors for their own interest. Karthik.
Yes. So, let me tell you that, this is not a small thing. Even Zoran Thanga has tweeted. Mr. Kipgan, yes, please. Then I'll tell you what Zoran Thanga has tweeted, and then I'll tell you what Zoran Thanga has written in his tweet. It's a message to Biren Singh. So it's not a problem about Manipur. It's a long tweet. I'll read it out for you. Mr. Kipgan.
Yes, thank you. When you say narco-terrorism and narco-terrorists, and put it as one of the starting point for all this present imbroglio in Manipur, I would agree with you when you say the term narco-terrorists and look at Manipur as. But lately, what has been happening is that you look to the hills and you come up with the term narco-terrorists. Now, what narco-terrorism is, and my understanding of it is that this, through the porous border, Manipur-Myanmar border, we know that since many years back, there has been smuggling of precious stones, smuggling of gold, smuggling of drugs and narcotics, other narcotic products, and this route, Manipur has become a route for that, and presently today, Manipur has become the birthplace of opium and the place where it is even refined to higher levels of the drug forms. But when we try and limit, this terming of narco-terrorists to a particular community and not to the entire state of Manipur, that is what has led to the present situation. Now, I'm not saying that is the only reason, but that is how we should look at the term narco-terrorism. When you look at it from the entire state's point of view and across community lines, blame everybody involved in it and bring to book everybody involved in it, that is how the problem of narco-terrorism should have been dealt with. But so long as you try and affix this term, fixate on it to a particular community and blame them for everything that has been happening, that is not going to bring anything, not going to help us move forward. And so we need to be careful, and I want the viewers of this channel to understand that narco-terrorists are the people of Manipur. If you say that, there is a way that we can all agree to. But please do not fix it and do not term a particular community as being, the only ones who are capable of doing this. In fact, we know the entire role of there have been so many incidents in the past where the bureaucrats, where the politicians, everyone is involved. They have been brought out in the newspapers, but till today we haven't seen them being booked. And Sister Brenda is also facing the brunt of this. So let us be very careful. That is all I'm trying to say when we use the term narco-terrorist.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ranjana, would you like to respond to this? And should I read out the Zoran Thanga's letter? Ranjana.
Yeah, I do not have any point regarding narco-terrorism. But I do have one question which I would like to ask to the central government or the central forces. See, there is so many incidents that's been happening. So one of the lifeline, like national highway that stretches from Dimapur to Imphal, it's been blocked for almost 2 months now. So what are the central government and even the central forces doing about it? If everybody knows I have utmost respect of our central forces, be it Assam Rifle or Indian Army. So I think it is not a very It's not a very hard job to control the or remove the blockade that's been happening in national highway. Why is it that it's been 2 months, nobody is doing anything about it or talking about it? So indirectly the militants group or the people who's been residing in the Kangpokpi area, they are indirectly kicking the Meitei community's stomach by blocking the national highway, right? So why is the central government not taking any action till now? What are
But
they
Ganjana
still
ji, everyone is doing everything. Women from the Maiti community, they block the movement of the security forces. You are saying that the community, other community is blocking the national highway. Everyone is blocking whatever they want to block. Security forces की तो कोई बात ही नहीं सुन रहा है वहाँ.
I understand the security forces. It is a different scenario that blocking the security from going to a certain area. That is a different thing. But this is a lifeline, livelihood, right? It's a basic needs, everyday needs. Like, and it's not a war zone there. So why is the central government not doing anything about it? When are they planning to remove the blockade there? That is one of the questions that I would like to.
Okay, that's your question. Now let me play out a bite of Ram Madhav, who was actually in charge of Manipur in 2017 when the first BJP government came out, when Biren Singh became the chief minister, his first tenure, and Ram Madhav stayed put for this campaign, and he was said कि हम hills और land को एक साथ लाएंगे. Madam Brinda, do not go away. General Saab, do not go away. Let us play out that 2-minute bite on the religious violence which has taken place in Manipur. Ram Madhav on it. Manipur has also witnessed religious violence. This state has witnessed burning of temples, less reported, but also burning of churches, more reported, but equally burnt.
Yes,
equally.
Yes, because the simple point here is, when you are attacking a Hindu Meitei, you think that attacking a Hindu temple means I am attacking a Hindu Meitei. When you attack a church, you are thinking that attacking a church means you are attacking either a Kuki or a Christian Meitei. In Churachandpur, I tell you, churches were burned down. Those churches which Meiteis go. Because there it is seen as the symbol of Meiteis. Temples are seen as symbols of Meiteis. Churches are seen as symbols of Kukis. So, unfortunately,
would you get a chance to go to Churachandpur? Would you go there, stay there the way you used to do?
I mean, it's part of our country. You and me, everybody should be able to go anywhere in the country freely. That is what is the idea of India, the so-called idea of India. So why Churachandpur? Anywhere in the state, any corner of the state, we should be able to go. Although attacks happened on religious lines, on religious places, temples also, and churches also.
Yes, temples were burned.
I underscore the point that probably should not be seen as a religious clash, a Christian-Hindu clash. For the important reason that I mentioned, that there are Christians among the Meiteis also. It happened. When you see that as a symbol, you try to attack that, which is bad again. But if religious organizations now start playing, like, church organizations and other organizations jump into it and start propagating all over the world. I started receiving mails from America that, churches are being attacked, what are you doing, some, important human rights leaders. I mean, I respect them, I have nothing against them. But then I sent them videos of, temples being burnt also. It's not about just any targeted attack on any particular religious community. It is a clash. In a clash, certain symbols are attacked. Symbols on both sides were attacked.
Now, let me read the tweet which has been taken out by Zoramthanga. Zoramthanga is the Chief Minister of Manipur. Zoramthanga... Mizoram, sorry. He is the Chief Minister of Mizoram. Zoramthanga's appeal. Now, it's a big tweet of Zoramthanga. I am reading out the tweet. You will be looking at the basic text. On the onset of May, witness a brutal, untoward, uncalled for incident in Manipur at this very moment, 3:30 am, July the 4th, 2023. Nothing seems to have changed. We are counting today's 62nd day. Zoramthanga has said nothing has changed. 1. While hope with so much goodwill, anticipation, hope things would turn for better, situation seems to have worsened. Situation seems to have worsened. That is what Zoramthanga has said. When will it stop? I condole my Manipuri Zo-ethnic brethren, my incessant prayers for those who have lost their loved ones. So Zoram Thanga is saying that nothing has worked in Manipur. I wish not to see any more pictures and video clips of churches being burned, brutal killings and violence of all nature regardless of gender and age. If there is only one way of settling of peace, shall we opt for that? He says many lives have been lost. So Zoram Thanga is saying that the Manipur has not done its best. Then it says, with no iota of doubt, those victims are my kin, my own blood, and should we quieten the situation just by being silent? So I think there's a hint of politics here. Zoram Thanga is wading into deep water.
There's no hint, Karthik.
It is clear, incumbent and imperative upon those responsible and law-abiding citizens or entities of India to look into immediate ways of peace restoration. Development with human touch required. Brutal violence in Manipur has displaced 12,000 people in Mizoram. Refugees and IDP from Manipur, Myanmar and Bangladesh have risen to 50,000. I want your take.
I think, I think Zoram Thanga is making his situation very clear. They share the same ethnicity and there is no way he can be seen being silent about what is happening in the state of Manipur, and he is doing precisely that. His comment that we cannot remain a silent spectator just by being silent, we cannot allow the situation to worsen is a clear indicator of the kind of heat he is facing as the Chief Minister of Mizoram. Because you have the same ethnicity, then the question arises, as to what exactly are you doing to elevate the situation, the sufferings, or to improve upon their lot. And Mizoram is also facing a problem of IDPs and all, because you see almost 30,000 people have migrated to Mizoram, and that creates stress on the economy of the state. And this is the reason why Mizoram has written a letter to the central government asking for relief so that they are in a position to take care of people who have migrated from Manipur to Mizoram to escape the violence that is unfolding in the state of Manipur. And this is the consequence, this is the reason why this long tweet which has been put out by Mizoram Chief Minister is concerned.
Okay, Madam Brinda, your comments on Zoram Thanga's tweet? I read it out for you. Can you please unmute yourself? Madam, you have...
Yes, I agree with many points of Zoram Thanga. Nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing has changed. It has worsened. It has aggravated. And things may perhaps never get back to our original, position if we do not take up some drastic and serious steps right now by all the stakeholders, by all the communities in Manipur against this, misgovernance in Manipur that has not been able to put things under control. And we should look at the present situation from historical perspective, as I had put. Manipur, as it is, has been facing armed violence for the last 50 years. And in this, people from both the hills and the valleys have lost trust in the state forces, be it the state police or the central forces. And the present situation has not been made in a day or a two or even a decade. It has taken decades to come to this situation. So the responsibility should be borne by both the government of India and the government of Manipur, along with the people of Manipur as a whole. And the government of India should consider the standard of governance that they have been giving to the people of Manipur in the last over 70 years. And it is this standard of governance that has resulted in this present chaos, which all of us are bearing. And whether Northeast and Manipur should remain as one with India, it all depends on how India treats Manipur and her people. So the final responsibility should be taken by the government of India on what standard of government they install in Manipur.
Sir, if the displaced people in Mizoram are 50,000 from Myanmar, Manipur, Bangladesh, 12,000 from Mizoram, and Zoram Thanga is saying my blood boils. This is something which I don't think anyone in Delhi must have bargained for. General Soy.
Yeah, in fact, I would not like to say about this thing because there is most of this thing political. But I would say, which I mentioned earlier also, that yes, it is very unfortunate that people have been displaced. They have been forced to go to Mizoram. About 30,000 people is not a small number, which of course has a impact on the local economy, the local people, and they are of the same kith and kin are there, relatives are there. So state boundaries are not a boundary for the tribal people who are staying in the hills, but the fact is that it has an impact on the Mizoram. And yes, the statement by him is that blood boils. I mean, I am feeling sad here that why these things are happening, whether it is a Meitei are suffering, the common people are suffering. I am feeling hurt. I am feeling sad because I'm from Naga regiment. I've been spending my holidays in Manipur after retirement. So that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of friends. I have friends both sides. So these kind of statements are all political gimmicks. I think we should take it in that manner, Karthikeya.
Yeah, absolutely. But it just tells us one more thing. It tells us that the situation in Manipur is not going to remain limited to Manipur. It also means that ethnically there is so much of movement of people, it will have a wider impact, and it has affected the politics of Mizoram. Mr. Kipgen, your thoughts on it?
Well, I wouldn't blame Zoramthanga for saying anything that he has said so far. In fact, this is what we have been expecting to hear from him. Not just because he's the chief minister of another state, but as because of the kinship and due to the closeness of our culture, our identities and everything, it is his responsibility to at least extend some solidarity, not just in terms of relief and materials, but also in terms of lending us his voice to reach the wider media. And yes, he may have his own political reasons for making those statements, but it is not wrong for somebody to actually identify himself to the world, to the country, of what his identity is. If today I say, and I speak for the Kukis, I speak for the Zos, it is because I'm a Kuki, I'm a Zo. So likewise, somebody should not be ashamed to bring out their identity and to stand with their brethren. But this does not mean that he does not sympathize with the Meitei community. It is just that in spite of 62 days having been passed with no change and with the situation getting worse and worse, he feels it is his responsibility to at least put up some strong words so that the situation in Manipur can be taken more seriously by the center government, and things towards normalcy can come about by the imposition of firstly the president's rule.
But what will happen, by changing Biren Singh? It's very evident Biren Singh is not going anywhere.
I don't know what will happen by changing him, but I am 100% sure what is going to happen by not changing him. 62 days should be a test that is sufficient to see the aftermath of his rule and of his authority. How much more do we wish to see this? It has been happening yesterday. It has been happening today. It has been happening. More and more lives are being lost. So how can we still question what is going to be the consequence of his continuing to be in power? There is no question on that.
Madam Brinda, Biren Singh is going to stay there. You are saying that there should be president rule, but I think after I will use the word political tamasha which took place on the street, and that the copy of torn letter which came out, it's very simple कि चीफ मुख्यमंत्री तो वही रहेंगे, उन्होंने तो शो ऑफ स्ट्रेंथ कर दिया.
It is up to New Delhi to decide if whether to save one person and make him remain in power and see the whole state being burned down, or to let one power-hungry person, irresponsible leader go and save the state and save peace and cordiality amongst all the communities. It is up to New Delhi.
Brijesh, Chief Minister is not going anywhere. He has showed his strength. He's made himself indispensable. You got to deal with him in the short run. What happens?
I think, the Chief Minister has to change his style of working, and the centre has to impress upon him, because without the change of style in functioning, Karthike, nothing is going to be achieved. The violence will continue. I mean, the sporadic incident of violence will continue, and then there will come a time when the positions will be so hardened, then you will be very hard pressed to look for a political solution. Because remember, solution has to come both sides, irrespective of the kind of deep distrust that is between them. They have to sit on the table to arrive at an amicable solution. You cannot have make a statement where you qualify every single line by saying we will do that, but for this it's a completely out of picture. This particular equation is completely out of scenario. So he has to reach out, and I think until and unless there is trust reposed, or he gains back the trust of both ethnicities, I don't see situation changing much on the ground. And if if you go by what the Mizoram Chief Minister has to say, one thing is very clear, that the situation, if it continues like this, may snowball into controversy in the surrounding states as well. And once that happens, then the government will be in a real fix. Because there is no way you see Zoram Thanga backing out, because the Kuki Chinzo, they have the same ethnicity, and there is no way he can get out of the situation. So if there is more political pressure on him to act, to react, then it will create a fix for the central government. And I think for this reason and a couple of others, to ensure that normalcy returns in the state of Manipur, the government has to act. And if Biren Singh doesn't go, then Biren Singh will definitely have to change the style of functioning, so as to at least give or send out a positive message that I am there as the Chief Minister of Manipur, and not, as has been widely said and reported by the Kuki community, that he is just a mighty Chief Minister.
That's a very strong statement to make.
No, but this is not my statement. This is not my statement, Karthike. This is a statement which has been made by at least hundreds of guests who have been sitting on our panel for the last 60 plus days. And one of the big problem is this only, that that there is no faith in the Chief Minister. Because had there been faith, if you trust somebody, then you also trust him, that if he talks about a particular solution, then there is a way forward. And the reason why the political dialogue or the political political solution to the kind of problem which Manipur is witnessing, the reason why there is no headway is because of this. Is because both sides don't trust him that much.
Okay, let me just play out the tweet of Zoram Thanga. Let me just read it out before I go back to my guests. The tweet of Zoram Thanga is very, very clear. Let me play out that tweet of Zoram Thanga. And that tweet of Zoram Thanga is: Manipur violence has led to internal displacement of 12,000 people in Mizoram. This is a long letter he has written. It's like a tweet letter he has written. When will it stop? Then he says that refugees and IDPs from Manipur, Myanmar, Bangladesh have risen to 50,000. I wish and pray that the central government on humanitarian ground lend us an immediate helping hand. I wish not to see anyone pictures and video clips of churches being burnt, brutal killing of violence of all nature, regardless of gender and age. If there is only one way of settling for peace, shall we opt for that? Many lives have been lost. Bloodshed all over, physical torture, and the victims are looking for refugees whenever possible. With no iota of doubt, those victims are my kin and kin, my own blood, and should be quieten the situation by just being silent. This is Zoram Thanga. Nothing has changed. General Saab, should certain laws be amended for the movement of army now?
In fact, I would say that there is a need to have a central command, basically centralized command.
I think Chief Minister took a meeting of a unified command today, if I am not wrong, sir.
Yeah. So that should have been done, in fact, 1 month back at least. It is too late rather. But fortunately, if they have taken a call to have a unified command, this was the need of the hour, because it was all scattered independent efforts, and it has to be totally, intelligence has to be fed centrally, the operations have to be carried out centrally, and the situation has to be dealt with iron hand. There is no other way out. On the one hand, one has to build the trust. On the other hand, the trouble creators need to be dealt with the iron hand, and then only the situation will come. And ultimately, it has to be dealt by the political establishment and by the police. The armed forces, the central forces can bring it up to a level where both the parties are brought to the negotiating table, and both the parties are able to talk to each other with some sort of trust. And it's basically central forces can only create a secure environment, secure situation where probably people can move out freely. That's the thing. At present, that situation is still not there. In spite of 2 months have passed, that is very, very unfortunate. And probably I feel that the unified command, personally, I feel should have been there about at least 1 month before, in first week of June, when they realized the situation is not coming under control. Karthik here.
But you know, the spear core visuals I am playing for you is something which should never be repeated, sir. You know, I know they showed great restraint. The army showed great restraint. But this is something which we should always remember.
Yeah. In fact, you see, as Brijesh had brought out earlier, and I also feel, having served in Kashmir, 7 tenures in Kashmir and from Naga regiment and all that, I find that it is very, very tough situation for armed forces. We have to operate with one hand tied behind our back, and at times we do not want to cause harm to the common man, common people. But if this kind of thing is there, we need to find a solution to this. You cannot have militants getting away and behind the women protesters, and we need to find a solution to this. And the only solution is to have a women police, have a women central forces, whether the BSF or CRPF, and we need to be dealt. And you cannot let the militants or troublemakers get away freely. That's not acceptable as far as I'm concerned.
But Brindaji, there is also one element, you know, the armory of the police forces have been looted. They have not come back. You know, the issue is 62 days and the weapons have not come back. How do you deal with that? Because ultimately these weapons cannot be allowed to circulate with the civil society. That is the difference between police and a civil society. Civil society is not supposed to have weapons. Ye to bilkul waisa hi hai, madam. You would know more people in America in last 6 months have died because of gun violence in schools and malls than by terror attacks. Because their civil society is full of guns. Anyone can buy it. And aapko to pata hi hoga, you have served in the forces. मतलब 6 महीने में इतने बच्चे मर गए वहां जितने टेररिस्ट वायलेंस में ना मरे हो उतने उन्होंने स्कूल और मॉल्स में they have killed each other. Why? Because you can buy weapons.
We all agree weapons have been snatched from Manipur Police Battalion police station by the people. My first question is, these battalions and Manipur police stations are all armed and well guarded. So how come the people were so easily allowed to snatch these weapons from the armory, from the quarter guard, from the police station so easily? What was our Home Minister doing, or why was he silent instead of commanding the state force that is under him? So instead of looking at the symptoms of the situation now, we should look at what took place and who all are responsible in bringing this situation out of control. Unless and until we go into the genesis of the whole problem as to who all has benefited out of this imbroglio, then we cannot solve this crisis. So the issue is whether people snatch those weapons or not. People, when they are infuriated, when they are angry, when they are out of control, they can do anything. But why were the weapons allowed to be taken from the Manipur Police Battalion? What were those COs doing? What were those SPs doing? What was the Home Minister doing? Rather, these questions should be asked, and we should try to find an answer.
Two things which are very, very clear. One is that the schools are going to be reopened. Our coverage is going to be there, when the schools open. We will be back tomorrow. We will be doing that, our special story. One thing is there because we will need to evaluate how students are going, how many students go there. Second important thing is the bunker destruction. Civil society has created bunkers for themselves. This is really unacceptable. That's the job of the army and these security forces. People cannot have bunker. Mr. Kipgin, you wanted to come in. I would give you that time. And you speak, then I'm going to take a conversation to a different point, which is now, how can these bunkers be taken care of? Mr. Kipgen.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to speak on, the bunkers, nothing else. I wouldn't agree with your definition of bunker. Bunkers are there for a purpose. What happened? Why did it become necessary for villages to have bunkers, especially those in the periphery between the hills and the valley? Bunker is not a symbol of offense. It is a necessity for defense. Now, until it is very contradictory that the chief minister has asked for the destruction and the removal of these bunkers, but not done anything yet to stop the forces, whichever forces it is, from firing upon those villages who need these bunkers. Now, I fail to understand. That is why, in fact, my suggestion would be, irrespective of which community, so long as we do not feel safe, the Métis should have their bunkers, the Gukis should have their bunkers, the government should ensure that there is no more firing. Then bunkers, who needs bunkers? It will be immediately, we shall destroy them ourselves. But it is very difficult to assume that, keeping ourselves susceptible and open to any form of indiscriminate firing and shelling of bombs, where we have no means to protect, to hide ourselves when such situation arises. So removing a bunker equals to, us putting up our chest openly and waiting for the bullets to be fired upon us. How does the government justify this when they ask for us to remove these bunkers? I think the government should answer that first.
Brijesh, if civil society needs to defend itself.
See, that's what I'm saying, Karthikeya. The problem is that there is a lot of justification. Professor who went yesterday and who was in Imphal, and Oinam Bhagat, and the kind of rage he was expressing yesterday on TV. I'm not going to go into the ethnicity as to who is right and who is wrong. I'm not a judge of that. But the fact of the matter is that yes, situation on the ground is so volatile that it provoked somebody who is a professor in the state in a Jawaharlal Nehru University, which is one of the most respected university in the country, to outrage and call it a term what is going on in the state of Manipur as a civil war. So you can understand the kind of anger or passion which is there. And the fact of the matter is, yes, that until and unless faith in police is restored, you will see these kind of bunkers. You will see the civil societies trying to arm themselves in order to defend themselves, because this has been a leitmotif. This has been a regular recurring dialogue which we've been witnessing in the last 2 months of where we have been discussing Manipur for News9 Live, Karthikeya. And it's not like it's my statement. You can go back to any conversation, in the middle of all those conversations, we're discussing 10 other things. This line will definitely crop up as to that, that we need to arm ourselves. The other important point is where are the missing weapons? That is $1 million question. And until unless those weapons which have been circulated in the civil society are brought back to the armory, and the faith in the police increases, most of these measures would only remain cosmetic.
Okay, so the schools are going to open tomorrow, and a lot of eyes are on this attempt that normalcy returns to the state. This is the 62nd day of our regular program, and now listen to my interview with Ram Madhav, who spoke to me on various issues related to Manipur, in which his single point advice to Biren Singh was, कोशिश कीजिए कि Manipur incident free हो. A very warm welcome on News9 Live, and today we are going to talk about the situation in Manipur, and I'm joined today by none other than Mr. Ram Madhav, President India Foundation and member of the National Executive of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. Thank you so much for making time. And point blank, let me ask you, why has situation in Manipur deteriorated so badly?
This gap between the communities in Manipur is not a new thing. It has been a very old phenomena. It needs to be managed very delicately. There always will be certain moments when those flashpoints come. Unfortunately, this time when that flashpoint happened, especially after the advice of the local high court to the government with regard to ST status, things could not be quickly managed, it appears, resulting in a very prolonged riot-like situation. I think it is definitely very unfortunate, but right now it appears that things are slowly but definitely returning to some kind of normalcy.
You scripted BJP's success in Manipur. Biren Singh was appointed as Chief Minister when you were in charge. Where has the Chief Minister gone wrong?
I don't want to blame the Chief Minister or any particular individual or anything like that for the situation right now in Manipur. Because I must tell you, when we formed the government, there was actually an active ongoing conflict between the Meiteis and Kukis. There was a decision by the previous Congress government which had led to massive agitation in the hills. There was police firing and a good number of deaths happened. 9 people who died, the hills people who died, the locals refused to bury them. The result was that their bodies were kept in the morgue there for almost 2 years, you can say. When our government was formed, the very first challenge we took upon ourselves was to resolve this conflict. That time Mr. Biren was the Chief Minister. With Mr. Biren's help or with his own initiative, we were able to resolve that big conflict between the two communities. Within less than 2 months' time, the standoff has been ended to the satisfaction of both sides, and the bodies were buried with the due rituals. Everybody started hailing Biren as the great unifier of the state, of the people of hills and the valley. I don't see any reason to think anything different about Chief Minister per se. But this time the conflict has acquired much bigger dimension, I would say. Much bigger conflict it became. So probably we needed to do much more, obviously. I mean, nobody can say that we have done everything correctly and all that. Probably we should have done much more. Not a time to blame this leader or that leader, but a time for everybody to come together.
But sir, more than 44 days requires for some sort of an assessment. Buck has to stop somewhere. I mean to say 350 guns in Kashmir Valley can destabilize the entire theatre. You have more than 4,000 armed missing in a state. Leave alone think tanks. Political parties can't get their cookies and Meitei MLAs to sit in one room.
Oh yes, I do agree with your assessment of the, gravity of the situation, no doubt about it. Although Kashmir was not about 350 guns, it was much more. Kashmir also was a very serious problem, but we should not compare Kashmir with the situation here. In Kashmir, the fight was between anti-nationals, foreign mercenaries, etc. Here, it's no anti-nationalism involved here. We must remember. Neither is it actually any religious communal clash. On record, I can tell you, although even in my own party or in my own organization, some people think that it is a communal clash. It is not, because among the Meiteis, at least 30-40% are Christians. It's happening. And among the Kukis also, of course, majority of them are Christians. So it is more a rivalry that existed historically for many centuries between the two communities. Issue is about the land, the control, the entire region. So issues are different. But yes, I do agree that a situation continuing like this for more than almost 2 months now, more than 50 days now, it calls for some kind of concern, greater concern. I'm sure the government is seized of the situation. Both government, when I say, of course, state, but also the central government. Home Minister himself went there and tried to bring people across the table.
But then how do you start a conversation? Because for a conversation, people need to cede ground. And neither the government wants to cede ground, nor the people who are opposed to Biren Singh wants to cede ground. You can have a mighty chief minister, but if you want to have a conversation with the Biren Singh himself, then the cookies won't speak. And I'm saying this very bluntly because it sounds very crude, but that is the fact. Cookies don't want to see him.
May not be fully true, because after all, Mr. Biren Singh's government has cookie ministers, cookie MLAs. When tempers go to that level where communities do not want to see eye to eye, more than showing haste in creating some kind of a dialogue and all that, first we have to work for restoring peace. Can we create incident-free Manipur? That should be the topmost priority today, because unfortunately every second, third day we hear about some incident happening, and some say no, not second, third day, every day. Today although mainstream media may or may not get the feed or information, social media is full of a lot of information.
Correct.
It provides lot of information about ongoing incidents on a almost on a regular basis. So priority, in my opinion, is to ensure that we reach a level of incident-free life there, so that we should be able to remove curfew fully. Today night curfew is there and sporadic incidents are happening. So once incident-free life returns, which is, in other words, in simple terms, peace, that's not real peace, but at least that we restore, then probably after some time we can have a negotiated a dialogue begin. For dialogue also, my view would be that it has to be with the help of certain third party non-political entities. If that can be set in motion, that will that can be put in place, that will definitely help in restoring dialogue between them. But again I am repeating, I am sorry, but priority is create incident-free Manipur.
So if incident-free Manipur needs to be created, it requires a peace committee. A lot of people have suggested Truth and Reconciliation Commission, I think, which was once in a century sort of thing, which Mr. Mandela did. But the last peace committee came a cropper. Members called up media houses saying that I wasn't even informed, so I don't want to be part of it. That Gargantuan thing fell apart in 24 hours, sir, and there's been no peace committee. I mean to say, there is no committee. Who should people talk to?
What can happen is the leaders of both communities, when I say leaders, not political leaders, the civilian leadership in both communities has to take things into its hands and convince their respective groups, especially in both sides there are groups which are active, ensure that they do not indulge in any violent activities. Is that possible? I can tell you, yesterday and the day before, we had some discussion with the civilian leadership of Manipur, both Meitei leadership and Kuki leadership in this very office here. After listening to them at length, we get a feeling that there are people in both communities, highly respected people. If allowed, they can probably try and restore that kind of, some kind of semblance of civility and normalcy in their respective communities. Today, it is more important for the communities to take things into their own hands and ensure that those who are taking the path of violence are discouraged, they are prevented. If that effort can begin, I think it can happen. I don't see it as any great difficulty, because not a comparison, but we have seen in even states like Kashmir, where things are much worse and much more different from this. Villages used to take initiative to ensure that their village will not allow any anti-Indian incidents. Here it is not even that. It is just about a clash between two communities. So community leadership has a greater role, I feel.
But don't you think that someone should be responsible, sir? I think in post-colonial India, this mass ghettoization of communities is unprecedented. You have people moving from one corner to another and they don't want to work, and the state wants no pay, no work. I mean to say, there is so much of resentment in the state with that.
Ghettoization, wherever it happens, is bad. There's no doubt about it. Whether it is Manipur or anywhere else in the country, one community being pushed to one area or restricted to one area is bad anywhere, but it happens, unfortunately it happens in many parts of the country. So ghettoization, of course, is not good. But let me tell you, Manipur has a history. In 1990s and early 2000s, there used to be grave tensions between the Nagas and Kukis. Both are dwellers of the hills, both live in hills. There were clashes in which almost 100 lives were lost. 200 lives were lost. I am talking about a period in 1990s and early 2000s. Those days also, same was the situation. Those villages, Kuki villages in Naga areas, were forced to vacate and move to Kuki areas. Naga villages in Kuki areas were forced to vacate and move to Naga areas. When communities fail to live together in goodwill and harmony, sometimes such situations arise. Overall goodwill has to be restored in current situation in Manipur, but pending that, the immediate priority, again I am saying, is first of all create a normal routine life of people in the state, then I am sure, because although they were fighting, they have been living together in that state. In fact, not for decades or centuries, it's millennia. They have been together.
People say when you were in charge of Northeast, you would stay put in Churachandpur, you would stay put in small centers. Did you expect way then, when you defeated a 3-time sitting Chief Minister, Ibobi Singh, that under the Chief Minister whom you picked, the government which came under your supervision, the administration would melt away like this in 48 hours?
I can say this much, that the kind of goodwill we could create between all the 3 communities when we formed the government in 2017. Based on that experience, I was handling the affairs of the state until end of 2020. In those 4 years, my experience was that absolutely fantastic people, excellent people. Leaders were so good, we worked together so very well. So for me, this extent of conflict came as a bit of a surprise, no doubt. Because the kind of cookies, the kind of Maitei, the kind of Naga leadership I saw, I never expected that things would go this far where they would refuse to even see eye to eye. They would refuse to sit across the table. This perhaps is definitely an unexpected thing. For a person like me, my experience is only 5-6 years, you can say, in that 2014 to 2026 years.
But to deliver Northeast,
we did work very effectively. Because as you
what about
said,
the political line you pushed, unifier of Plains and Hill?
I have always one principle, that you have to empower people. In hills, we have 6 hill district councils. They were created under a law, under an act of the state. Those councils, when we came to power in 2017, the very year we held elections to those district councils and gave power to the district people. Like Cookies had power in 4 districts, Nagas had power in 2.5 districts. So they are in power, they are able to manage their affairs. So that gives a sense of confidence and sense of belongingness. I would say that probably after 2022, for various reasons, maybe COVID or some other reason, those elections could not be held. At an appropriate time, we have to hand the power back to the people. That is a very fundamental requirement, not just in Manipur, anywhere in the country. Power has to be, we are in a democracy, power has to be with the people concerned. Who should have power? They should have power. So I think some such measures at the political level will be required afterwards, not today. Today priority is different, but at some point we need to take them into confidence. They are not anti-nationals. Neither Maiteis are anti-nationals nor Cookies are anti-national. Such elements will be there everywhere. Some elements which try to exploit the situation. Some may talk about a nation, a Manipuri nation. Some may talk about that, but that's not the common view. Manipur produced so many patriots. Those who died right from INA to today in Indian Army. You will find large number of people coming from Manipur. All societies, Cookies, Nagas, Maiteis. We have Lieutenant General rank officials who are from Maitei community. We have soldiers from Cookies. In fact, INA, in Subhash Chandra Bose's army, those who sacrificed their lives in that battle in Manipur, Moirang and all, majority were Cookies. Out of 200 people dead, 150, 160 are Cookies.
But Manipur also has its own contradiction. Both Cookies and Maitis, they imagine their state differently. They imagine their state history in a very contested way. Second thing I have realized that apart from an imagined history or the contested history, Maitis dominate the political landscape. The Cookies dominate the bureaucracy there. Maitis are in the valley, the Cookies are in the hill. There are so many fault lines. How do you expect them to be bridged unless and until, they are constitutionally, legally resolved? For example, like there is a debate why every tribe should be a scheduled tribe. Or for example, the land resource problem, why should Maitis be confined to land only? And then, let me put it this way, the larger narrative, all Cookies are outsiders, poppy cultivator hai. And Maitis, just because they are in majority, ये तो majoritarian politics करते हैं. In this such vitiated environment, how do you create a middle ground?
The last 7 decades of the experience with the state has been that never was this the discourse there. The kind of discourse that you put forward now was never a discourse there. Manipur had cookies as chief ministers, even Muslims as chief ministers. Although the population was small, confined to one district called Jiribam, they became chief ministers. Of course, Meiteis became chief ministers. There was never any such question. Because although they belong to three different tribal or ethnic identities, they lived like one people. It has always been like one state. Today, because tensions reached a very high level, we are now actually discussing all these things. But never in that history was not like that. I mean, I'm telling you my own experience. Those 5-6 years that we handled the state, it never occurred to us that we are dealing with three watertight compartments. They worked, all of them worked together. There used to be, of course now because of conflict, that ghettoization you talked about, migration happened. But there used to be a good number of Meiteis in Churachandpur, in the hills. And I tell you, many of them used to be Christian Meiteis. So that state over the decades has developed a very syncretic existence, which has got affected today. I get your point also again. From there, today, you reached a point of nadir.
As a journalist, I find it very disturbing that every lawmaker I have interviewed, how sophisticated the argument might be, but they do not represent Manipuri identity. They spoke on ethnic lines. They did not act like Manipuris. You know, it's like saying there is unity in diversity. I'll put it around. There is diversity in unity.
You see, we are right now in a very difficult, sensitive situation. In this situation, sometimes for reasons like political correctness, etc., people may take a particular stand in the name of their own community, their own tribe, etc. But ideally, you know, the history of this state has been that they always lived like one unit, one entity. And therein lies the future of Manipur also. That also everybody realizes. Although I know today there is a strong demand from one side that, you know, no question of any tampering with the integrity of the state. I know when we talk to different groups in the valley, we first point we used to make very clear used to be no tampering with state's integrity. That won't be changed. Short of that, okay, we can discuss anything. That used to be our principle. I think that remains the principle. State is one unit. We have lived like one state. We have to live like one state. But today different demands are there. They need to be tackled very carefully.
Before I close in, RSS has pressed itself into action during social crisis, whether it was 62 war, whether it has been calamities. How is RSS pressing itself into a national calamity of Manipur in terms of national unity, integration, values, getting people together?
Wherever such crises happen, RSS role will be only to offer succor to the people and help the affected, but also try and restore peace, maintain unity. I am sure to that extent our people, although in Manipur RSS activity is relatively small, but with whatever strength they have, they are probably working in the direction of, you know, ensuring that violence ends, normalcy returns, and people, those who are affected will get some succor, and larger unity of the community is maintained. That will be the RSS mission always.
RSS works at a social cultural level. How much RSS is worried about the fact that in Manipur you have some sort of, if I have not used the word militarization, but some sort of muscularization of social components, like you have armed militant Kuki groups, you have Arambai Tengol and Meiti Lupun, you had Meiti women coming out stopping the convoys of army, you have Kuki militias moving. How concerned are you? How concerned is the organization? Because the motto of the RSS is to work with the society.
Oh yes, of course. Militancy in whatever form, espoused by whichever community, is bad. We do not support it. So to that extent, I don't name which community has which militant group, but it is known even in the past. I mean, for many decades there existed certain groups on all sides, and mostly when there is a strong government and law and order prevailed, they used to operate outside of the state, never within the state. Leadership used to be in Myanmar and elsewhere. They used to try and create some mischief, but largely they were succeeded. Popular support to militancy was never so great in that state. Popular support to militancy. But right now it is not just about militancy. It's a kind of a sentiment that has brewed in the state on both sides. I mean, in yesterday's and day before's discussion, we realized that it has become a strong sentiment now. So that needs to be tackled. It's a sentiment at the popular level. So that needs to be carefully tackled with a lot of sensitivity. You can't trample upon anybody's sentiment because these are not small militant groups doing this or that. It's actually a popular sentiment now. Because of certain events that have happened in the last 2 months, we need to tread very cautiously, very carefully. But the bottom line is integrity of the state and unity of all 3 communities, all the people, not even 3. In fact, Manipur has, we generally talk about only 3 communities, but it has 5, 6, 7 communities. I mean, like any other state.
Correct.
They all have to live together. That should be the ultimate objective.
And the armed expression, the sort of paramilitarization of the 2 communities, aren't you concerned?
What we are talking of paramilitarization is because of that stealing of weapons from government armor, police armor. Kuki militia, I can say in 2008 suspension of operations happened. The weapons were confiscated by Assam Rifles. They were supposed to be lying with Assam Rifles. So there needs to be an audit done as to whether they are with Assam Rifles or they again reached the hands of the militant elements in
sudden coming up of Arambai Tengol. These were not there.
So these groups, as in a democracy, as normal social groups, if they are espousing a cause, that cause needs to be tackled separately. But the challenge of weapons has to be tackled differently, and that's why the government has tried to search and take those weapons back. Door-to-door searches are happening. I'm hopeful that those stolen weapons will come back, and also in the hills, if the weapons are back in the hands of the youth, they have to be confiscated again.
And lastly, yes, I do agree with you that the violence is on ethnic lines, but Manipur has also witnessed religious violence. This state has witnessed burning of temples, less reported, but also burning of churches, more reported, but equally burnt.
Yes,
equally.
Yes, because the simple point here is, when you are attacking a Hindu Meitei, you think that attacking a Hindu temple means I am attacking a Hindu Meitei. When you attack a church, you are thinking that attacking a church means you are attacking either a Kuki or a Christian Meitei. In Churachandpur, I tell you, churches were burned down. Those churches which Meiteis go. Because there it is seen as the symbol of Meiteis. Temples are seen as symbols of Meiteis. Churches are seen as symbols of Kukis. So, unfortunately,
would you get a chance to go to Churachandpur? Would you go there, stay there the way you used to do?
I mean, it's part of our country. You and me, everybody should be able to go anywhere in the country freely. That is what is the idea of India, the so-called idea of India. So why Churachandpur? Anywhere in the state, any corner of the state, we should be able to go. Although attacks happened on religious lines, on religious places, temples also, and churches also.
Yes, temples were burned.
I underscore the point that probably should not be seen as a religious clash, a Christian-Hindu clash, for the important reason that I mentioned, that there are Christians among the Meiteis also. It happened. When you see that as a symbol, you try to attack that, which is bad again. But if religious organizations now start playing like, church organizations and other organizations jump into it and start propagating all over the world. I started receiving mails from America that, churches are being attacked, what are you doing, some, important human rights leaders. I mean, I respect them, I have nothing against them. But then I sent them videos of, temples being burnt also. It's not about just any targeted attack on any particular religious community. It is a clash. In a clash, certain symbols are attacked. Symbols on both sides were attacked.
And last question, any one piece of advice to your former colleague, Mr. Biren Singh, who became Chief Minister when you were in charge of Northeast?
No, I am not in any any such political authority to give any advice to him. But my only concern is that everybody should work towards, first of all, creating an incident-free Manipur.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. So that was Ram Madhav, point blank, blunt, not ducking any question in our special edition on Manipur on News9 live stream. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
मैं इमरान अहमद खान नियाजी सबके दिल से हल्फ उठाता हूँ.
When Imran Khan came initially into politics, he thought his personal popularity would be sufficient for him. It didn't happen.
The retired military generals are openly saying that Imran Khan is a better choice.
Imran Khan may have bitten a bit too much, more than what he can chew.
Implosion. This and more. Streaming on world's first news OTT. News9 Plus. Download now.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm climbing a mountain. Well, let me give you a wider look of this place. This is Asia's largest mountain of shame.
A mountain of waste, almost the height of the Qutub Minar.
When you enter capital cities of some of the biggest countries in the world, you don't have 3 garbage mountains waiting to welcome you depending on whichever side of the city you enter from.
The thing is that a lot of times we talk about landfills only when there's a fire at the landfill. You need to understand that a landfill is at fire almost throughout the year. It's only when the firefighters are not able to douse the fire is when it actually catches the nation's attention, the city's attention, or media attention.
The towering landfills worsen one of Delhi's biggest problems: pollution.
यहाँ पर आप रात को आओ, दिन में आओ, आप 1 घंटे बैठ नहीं सकते बाहर. इतनी धूल, प्रदूषण, महक, आप खाना भी नहीं खा सकते बाहर बैठ के.
Life around the landfill is a curse.
हमारे घर में जो बड़े हैं उन्हें अस्थमा के वो पेशेंट है, आए दिन उनको नेबुलाइजर लगाना पड़ता है.
डॉक्टर ने मुझे ये चीज बोला कि यहाँ का एरिया छोड़ के कहीं और चाहिए.
Delhi's garbage mountains are now a fetid symbol of the national capital's trash problem. The question is, who is to be blamed? Watch Delhi's Garbage Mountains. Streaming on News9 Plus for the Gemflix.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं क्योंकि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं.
Coaching is now starting from grade 3, 4, 5, 6.
कोटा जाने वाली बीच राह में आधे टेस्ट देके हैं सिलेक्शन की चाह में.
ऑल इंडिया का बच्चा कोटा जाता है.
This rat race is for rats, not for humans. So why should we even be a part of it?
The Rat Race. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT. News9 Plus. Download now.
Gautam Adani, one of the richest men in the world, or a business honcho, accused of manipulating the market.
अदानी जी 609 नंबर से दूसरे नंबर तक कैसे पहुंचे? सिर्फ एक सवाल पूछा, नरेंद्र मोदी जी, आपका अदानी जी से रिश्ता क्या है?
He has given the space, the railways, the airport, which he has no experience also. So the country's interest has been compromised.
Government has been very clearly supporting few industrial groups, including Adani's industrial group.
Target Adani, streaming now.
China won't let us rest easy on our borders. But they will keep flooding our markets. What does Xi Jinping really want?
I think he wants the Indian market, no doubt about it. It's really a matter of showing their dominance.
India's great Chinese conundrum.
Nobody can contain it. Not the United States, not China, not anybody else.
Frenemies. This and more. Streaming on the world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
Pakistan is actually genociding Baloch people. So being Baloch is a crime. If you are a Baloch, it means in the eyes of Pakistan, you don't have any right to live.
The Chinese and Pakistanis are colonizing the Baloch and exploiting their resources.
The Baloch armed struggle will continue unless China withdraws, Pakistan military withdraws from Balochistan and give Baloch complete authority to decide for themselves.
The Baloch feel that if they don't act now, they will become marginalized.
What lies ahead for Balochistan?
Balochistan, Bangladesh 2.0. This and more. Streaming on India's first OTT video magazine, News9 Plus.